Hello, you are listening to From McClay to Zama. I'm your host, Karen Miller. This podcast is about the adventures of two women from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, who worked for the U.S. Army at Camp Zama, Japan, from 1953 to 1955. Their stories are told through hundreds of letters written home. Episode 26, we're going to hear letters 72 to 75. Before we get started, I just want to talk to you about why I'm doing the podcast the way I am. I kind of like the surprise of finding out what's in an episode and in letters and opening them. It's kind of like opening presents. So I hope that you're enjoying the podcast. I'm kind of waiting for something else big to happen again after episode 21. So Peg uses the term gold bricking, and that is a term I grew up with, but didn't apparently ever really know where it came from. So I looked into that. And in the 1800s, con artists would pass off bricks made of base metal as gold. They would cut off the corner of the brick in front of the person they were scamming to prove that it was gold, but they had just made the corner of the thing out of gold, and the rest of it was worthless. By World War II, the term had come to refer to anyone who wasn't pulling their weight. Now we call it cyber slacking. I also found an interesting connection to my life in this episode. Vern and Peg go to a restaurant called Original Joe's. I found out that the restaurant originated in San Francisco's Tenderloin District in 1937 and was owned by a Croatian immigrant. My husband's family is Croatian, so I thought that was a cool connection. Letter 72 from Peg, written the 14th of January, 1954, from Camp Zama. Dear Mother and Daddy, I'm really gold bricking today. I had my tooth pulled this morning, so I'm not going to go to work. He gave me Novocaine, and it was out as quick as a wink. No pain, no strain. It's still bleeding, a skoshi. Otherwise, I would go to work because it doesn't hurt. But I'm going through Kleenex like mad, and it's pretty messy. Right now, I'm propped up in bed with my slacks on, and I'm just enjoying a quiet day at home. One of Vern's friends got her a loaf of cinnamon bread, so I made some toast and tea for lunch. Incidentally, I just about set fire to the place because I started to read When We Got Back to You for the umpteenth time and got carried away. So the toast burned away merrily until I came back to this world. Last night, Jeanette and Vern and I went into Yokohama and ate at Original Joe's. I had spaghetti, mixed Italian salad, and bread, and I was just stuffed. But it was so good. Vern had minestrone soup and salad and pizza, and the soup was just wonderful. There's not too much other news at present. I had a date with Red Dog last Friday night, but haven't seen him since. Katie, the school teacher across the hall, is going to try to fix me up with a lieutenant colonel. And if he's the one I think, he's a perfect doll. About 35. But this week, I'm not interested in men. Vern and Jeanette and I are sick of them and of hearing the same old lines all the time. But never fear, I'll get over that feeling soon. Just this week, I'm hating them. Yamanuchi-san is all shook up today about my tooth. With wild gesturing and pointing to my little pearlies, I finally got it across to her that I had a tooth pulled. She asked me something. I think she wanted to know whether it hurt. But I just smiled and said it's okay. She's a good kid. Yesterday, she spilled some of the intoxication perfume that Kit gave me for Christmas, and my room smells like, well, you can imagine what it smells like. We'll send the empty tin cans back to you when we finish the cookies. But I don't think we'll have much, if anything, to send back to you in the way of food. We don't eat Japanese stuff except for fruits and, of course, the food we eat in approved Class A restaurants. I get $2 more in pay now since the income tax reduction went into effect. That's $52 a week, which is okay by me. We're going to Yokohama on Saturday and buy a 35mm camera. It takes colored pictures and they're mounted on slides so we can have home movies when we get home. That will mean we'll have to buy a projector too, but what the heck? We know darn right well we can't save money over here, so we might as well spend it. That's an odd way of looking at it, I suppose, but we're having fun. Well, I guess I'll return to my reading and spitting. I just wanted to let you know, though, the extraction was a success. It was so uneventful that we wouldn't even have renewed my friendship with Mr. Kaufman if he were here. Wasn't that funny? I really was out of my head that time. Love, as always, Peg. P.S. Did you get any of that snow we've been reading about? Letter 73 from Peg, written the 18th of January, 1954. Dear Mama and Papa, the typewriter, compliments of Katie. She's a real grand gal, and we enjoy her. She has a PTA meeting tonight, so I came right out and asked if I could borrow her typewriter. Sure, she says, so here I am. First of all, by the time half of AFFE knows about our brilliant brother. First of all, by this time, half of AFFE knows about our brilliant brother. I'm so darn proud of him that I could bust. I always did say, as did you, that he fell into blank and came up with diamonds. And this chance only goes to prove the saying even further. Nevertheless, that guy's got brains, and I'm so proud of him. By all means, wipe out my account if you must. Don't spare the horses at all, because I don't need the money, except for insurance premiums. And just think, they'll be so close to home, too. Maybe that will be a big factor in helping Sis, don't you think? Before I forget it, I got a letter from Pete last week, and she said that you folks were worried about because you hadn't heard from us. First of all, I write at least once a week, and Bern writes about that often. So if you don't hear, it's because the mail is held up somewhere. Telling you folks not to worry is like telling the sun not to shine. But please try your best not to worry about us. We're fine, in good health, except for the usual run of colds and cramps, and if anything disastrous would happen to us, you'd be notified immediately. Pete also said that she told you that you'd be getting a call from Seattle soon. Mother and Daddy, we can't possibly afford to come home before at least our first year is up. It takes about a month or 6 weeks to clear this place, so you'd be hearing about it if we ever did get any such idea. However, like I said, we definitely won't be home before next summer, unless we get fired, which we would write and tell you about immediately. So don't get your hopes up or down that you'll see us before then. Maybe I sounded a little harsh to Pete in that letter, but I just know what high-flying ideas she gets at times, and it wasn't fair to you folks for her to say that about a call from Seattle. You'll be the first to know ever. Please keep this part of the letter in confidence because I know how blue Pete is feeling these days, and she shouldn't be upset any more than she already is. Saturday, we went to the ship's store at Yokosuka and bought ourselves an Argus C3-35 millimeter camera. It cost $41, and the stateside price is $69.50. We're hoping the next weekend brings some nice weather so that we can experiment with it, because last weekend was miserable. We're real anxious to see our results, but it looks mighty complicated. Oh well, other people just as dumb as we are have taken real lovely pictures, so I guess we can master it too. The pictures will be in color and printed on slides to be put in a projector. We'll have to buy a projector too. They cost $32 over here, but we feel it's a lifetime investment. Saturday night, we went to see Stalag 17, and if you haven't seen it, don't miss it. It's a riot. Sunday, we just potted around and went up to the club in the evening. I sure did a crazy thing last night. I was sleeping, and I dreamt that I was smoking a cigarette in my cigarette holder, and I dropped it in bed. How ridiculous, because I never smoke in bed. Anyhow, I dropped the cigarette, and I jumped up, turned on the light, and searched all over the bed for the blasted thing. I looked under the bed, under the mattress, through all the blankets, and all this time, I was positive I could smell the bedclothes burning. Finally, I said, "Now, just a minute, nuthead. Look in your bag and see if your cigarette holder's in there." So Nuthead looked in her pocketbook, and naturally, it was there. That's the second time I've done this since we've been over here. Mother, please tell me what it means. I bought 2 lamps for my dresser, like I got for Jeanette for Christmas. They have red raw silk shades on them, and they do look pretty cute. Right now, I can't think of a thing I want to bring home with me, except a dozen pairs of Zoris and some jewelry. So maybe I'll be able to put away $5 or $10 every payday. It sure would help. Tonight we went down to the Messy Mess to eat. They have more of a variety on the menu, but the meals are 90 cents. Ain't that awful? So we just walked out and went over to the snack bar and had a plate lunch over there for 45 cents. Anna's supposed to be back this week. Hallelujah. Poor girl. She sure is going to be sorry she didn't stay in the good old ZI. Other than that, there's not too much news. I miss my tooth because I don't have to go up so far in my cheek to pick out food particles now. I hope you made out real well with the farm show, but I suppose you both knocked yourselves out. I'm getting to be such an expert loafer these days with my silly job and Yamanuchi-san that I just won't be good for a thing. However, at times I'd love to scrub a real dirty floor, or won't you believe it, I even get the urge to clean the china closet. Please take really good care of yourselves. I just enjoy your letters so much, and I look forward to Monday to get them. Byrne said I was a little feisty if I told you, but I'm going to tell you anyhow. Yesterday, I went to church and she didn't. She stayed home yesterday and washed her hair. I told Byrne I was going to tell you that I dyed my hair just to give you something more to worry about, and she said I was a hateful brat. I didn't really, and I don't intend to. Honestly, Mother, I just feel in a devilish mood tonight. Wait till I tell her that I really did say it. Boy, will she flip a lid. I enjoy her. I forgot to tell you that Dopey called us one day. He's at ETA JIMA Specialist School on temporary duty from Korea, and he's going to call us the next time he goes to Yokohama. I got a letter from Burke today, and he's in Korea. We didn't know who Dopey was when he called because now he goes by the name Carl. I guess he finally got it across who he was saying Dopey, without saying Dopey, and it was good to hear from him. No more paper. Love you, and Blonde too. Still red. Letter 74 from Byrne and Peg. Not in the usual airmail envelope. It's just a plain one. And it was written the 21st of January, 1954. Dear Papa-san, this is from Byrne. Certainly didn't mean to wait so long to answer your real interesting letter and note, but I put myself on a strict schedule of answering letters in the order received, except for the weekly missive home. And what with being lazy and not writing to anybody for days at a time, yours got lost in the shuffle. I felt right proud to hear from you so often. When I was away at school and in Chicago, I think I heard from you once. Either you are not so busy now, or you love me more. Which is it? The day is cold and dreary. It rains and the wind is never weary. And besides all that, the lights in our office building went out about 8:30 and didn't come back on until about 11:30. So you can imagine how dismal a scene that presented. Everything is dajobi now, and we can conduct business as usual. Only, as you can see, I'm goofing off by writing to you. Major Kingen had gone to a meeting in Tokyo, and Betty Cartmel, my immediate supervisor, is sitting over there doing cryptograms. So who am I to be different? Anyhow, I'm not at all interested in this job and frankly don't care much how well or how poorly I do. I know if I told you this face to face, you would give me a lecture. But who's afraid of the big bad wolf if he's several thousand miles away? Ha! I put in a request for a letter of availability, which, if received, will mean that I have permission to go to civilian personnel in Tokyo and look for a job in the same department. We shall see what we shall see. Isn't the news about Mark just wonderful? I was so thrilled when we heard about it. From a long ago conversation with him, I got the impression that his first love was research, but that he felt there was more money to be had elsewhere. It seems to me that this move combines the right combination of a chance to do something he likes and at the same time prepare himself for the top by gaining further knowledge. He is an Ikiban, which means number one boy, I think. Did Peg tell you in her last letter that we bought a camera? It's mainly for the purpose of taking colored slide pictures because this is truly such a beautiful country and colorful place that it would be a sheer waste not to record some of what we see. Later on, we will buy a projector, so when we get back, you will have your ears talked off as we explain our pictures. How do you like that? The dullness of the day is only exceeded by the dullness of my brain. Please excuse the uninterestingness of this note, but I can't do any better at the moment. We haven't been doing anything Japanesey lately. hence the scarcity of news. Please bank the enclosed money order toward my income taxes, you know. I'll send you more later. Talk us in love, Burnson. The next letter is from Peg and was in the same envelope, also written the 21st of January, 1954 from Camp Zama. Dear Mother and Daddy, I just have to tell you this because Burn and I really knocked ourselves out laughing, and I might forget it the next time I write my regular weekly letter. Colonel Goriup is our executive officer, and my desk is very close to his, except there's a kind of partition between them, although it doesn't hamper sounds coming back and forth. He's a great storyteller and quite a wit, and just the kind of person I like to hear make funnies, because he's witty. Yesterday, I found a silver medal star about 2 inches in diameter lying on one of the desks. So I picked it up. I put it on my shoulder and told Mr. Brown, look, I just made BG, Big General. He laughed and told me to put it on Colonel Goriup's jacket. I did, but then I turned chicken and took it off before he saw it. I thought he might not think it was amusing. So later in the day, Brownie and I went through the routine for him and told him how we were going to make him BG, and he got quite a laugh out of it. Which all leads up to the point of this letter. The conversation got around to generals, which reminded Colonel Goriup of this story. General Hayes, I think that was his name, was transferred from the Far East Command to the Army Medical Field Service School at Fort Sam Houston, Texas. He was a rootin' tootin' general, and he didn't like the idea of training all those young, green, fresh First Johns with films and movies, thinking they would fall asleep and miss the teaching. So he decided to hold the actual maneuvers on an adjoining reservation at Fort Sam. Of course, this operation involved a lot of time, trouble, and money, but the general didn't care. He wanted what he wanted, and he wanted maneuvers. One of the items that the quartermaster couldn't issue were helmet liners. The only ones they had in stock were salvaged from somewhere and had insignia, captains, majors, and colonels painted on them. The general says, issue them anyhow. So they were issued. Well, being young and full of life, the First Johns had a big time greeting each other as, good morning, Major. How are you, Colonel? Depending on what was painted on the particular helmet liner issued to the individual. The maneuver started, and during a lull one day, one of our young lads was daydreaming in the shade of the nearest tree, thinking about his $50,000 practice that he was giving up, says Colonel Goriup. The general was taking a look-see to check the program, and he came across our hero. The boy looked up, raised his head a little, and said, Christ, where did you get one with a star on it? Well, after the office force stopped roaring, Colonel Goriup says that our boy was not reprimanded, but told to get off the ground because he might get ticks. And the general left the area to have a good belly laugh. Days like that, I actually enjoy my job. Not much to tell. Red Dog called this evening and had wanted me to have dinner with him, but I already had eaten, so we'll make it another time. Make it sometime this weekend. The weather is miserable right now, cold, raining, and damp. Kleenex is the order of the day, as everyone either has, just had, or will get a cold. I'm just getting over mine, and Bern had hers last week. Well, I hope you think the story is as funny as we do, because you know how Bern cries when she laughs? And when I told her last night, we both had tears welling down our cheeks. Loving kisses, me. So I do remember those lampshades from when I was little. They were very like Chinese little fancy things, and I think they had like little trinkets hanging off the corners of them. I thought they were very, very pretty. I thought the dream about Peg smoking and being worried about smoking was interesting. She said it was the second time she'd had the same dream and thought she had been, thought she was on fire. She did an interesting thing when I was a child. She did always feel like she needed to quit smoking. And at some point when I was a young teenager, maybe 12 or so, she decided that she was going to quit and she was going to split the money or send the money to her nieces and nephews. So the money she would have spent on the cigarettes she sent to us, which I remember, had a twofold effect, which was we were thrilled to have the money, and also to realize how expensive it was. And it was also kind of a warning for us not to smoke. So she She was always trying to teach us a lesson and give us things at the same time. Another one of my questions got answered in this episode, in these letters, and that was, why didn't they eat more often in Japanese restaurants or eat local food? They're pretty adventurous eaters. And now I know the answer, which is the government or the military didn't let them eat except for in approved places. So I thought maybe the language barrier was keeping them from eating Japanese food. But now we know that I guess for fear of illness, they were only allowed to eat in certain approved places. The next time on From Maclay to Zama, there's a blizzard. I didn't realize this weather in Japan is crazy. And Peg gets a new nickname that she's going to go by for a while. I guess the military is all about nicknames. And then there's some poetry that I found quite interesting. I hope you have a great week. I hope you're enjoying the podcast. And if you are, please subscribe in Spotify. On Apple Podcasts, hit the plus button in the top right-hand corner and rate. This will help my listeners find my podcast more easily. You can access the show's website at www.FromMaclayToZama.com, where I posted photos and links from the episodes. The podcast is now available on iHeartRadio, Pandora, Patreon, and Amazon as well. New episodes will be available each Friday morning. The letters were written by my aunts Bern and Peg, transcribed by me. I write and record the show and have created the artwork and original music. Our producer is Zeke, our sound engineer is intern Sylvie, and the security is provided by intern Frey. Thanks to my great-grandparents, John and Helen, who loved us all and thought it was a good idea to save the letters. All rights reserved, 2024.